Righto, welcome back, gang. We are live in our Thursday YouTube series called Franchising Explained, where I break down one franchise topic every single Thursday. Now, we got a cracker episode for today, but before I get into today's episode, firstly, if you're tuning in, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming down. What did we speak about last week? Last week, we spoke about how a Little Boomers franchise makes money, and I did a profit and loss breakdown with some real numbers, no mucking around, no hiding stuff. It was real numbers there. And I pretty much broke down how you need to view a profit and loss statement, exactly your revenue, your expenses, your cost of goods and services. We broke it all down. It was a simple walkthrough for dummies as well. So if you don't have any experience, if you don't know what a profit and loss statement is, I used real simple language. And then I tied it in to how the profit in your business pays off your investment for your franchise. So you can see exactly what your potential return on investment is. Because one of the main questions I get during the franchise discovery call is, Emil, how quickly can I make my return on investment? If I give you guys 60K or whatever the franchise is that you're purchasing, 100K, 200K, how can I make my return on investment? Because until you make your return on investment, you haven't profited from that franchise, right? So if it costs 60K, and you're making profit, that profit pays off the investment. And I show you exactly, I'll walk you through the entire process. If you haven't seen it last week, go back and watch that video. I literally broke you through a real P&L sample with 100 kids in the program. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? Today, we're going to be talking about the real cost of starting a kids basketball franchise, the real cost associated with starting a kids basketball franchise, mainly Little Boomers basketball. Now, franchisors, they don't give you the entire fees associated with starting up a franchise. They might tell you, yeah, the investment's 50K or 60K, but then, when you get issued a franchise agreement and you read the franchise disclosure document, you see all these other fees like a training fee, a marketing fee, a setup fee. And then by the end of it, all these fees that add up, it's no longer 50K, it might be 60, 70, 80K. So this is really important because I'm going to be very transparent with you with all the fees that are associated with starting up a Little Boomers basketball franchise. And franchisors tend to hide this information, or maybe they don't give you all the information you need. So that's important. And the other reason why this is important is I'll get people ask me during the franchise discovery call, Emil, if I pay the franchise fee to own a Little Boomers basketball franchise, which is 60K right now, is that all? I don't have to pay anything else, yeah? Like court hire, coach wages, equipment costs, that's all covered by you, yeah? And that couldn't be further from the truth. Sometimes people think because they've paid a large investment, which is a franchise fee, which is, microphone there, which is the largest fee, that they don't have to pay anything else. There aren't any other costs, any other startup costs, or any other ongoing costs, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So we're going to be talking about that. And the last reason why this is so important, understanding all the startup costs associated with a Little Boomers basketball franchise, or any other franchise for that matter, is it affects your return on investment. At the end of the day, you're coming into a franchise to make your investment back and profit, right? So if there's a lot of startup costs, if there's a lot of ongoing costs, don't you think that's going to impede or affect your return on investment and how quickly you make your return on investment? Of course it is, right? So we're going to be talking about that. So it's very important that you understand the startup costs associated with the business. Now, I'm going to do a screen share in a bit, but I want to get into my first point when I'm talking about startup costs. And in any costs or any startup costs associated with a Little Boomers basketball franchise, and mainly any other franchise, is I've broken it down into three categories. You've got your initial startup costs. Now, these tend to be the biggest, your franchise fee, your training fee, your marketing fee, your setup fee, everything that's associated initially when you sign the franchise agreement. They're not reoccurring. They're initial fees that you need to pay for to get your business up and going. You then have ongoing fees that you need to pay for as a franchisee. These might be an admin fee. We have a $1,000 admin fee every year. There might be a marketing fee every quarter that the franchisee has to pay for. Day-to-day expenses that you incur as a franchisee. For example, our franchisees got to pay court hire fees, coach wages. If they need new equipment, they might need to purchase those. So we call those ongoing fees. And then the last classification is, it's not really a fee, but it's a buffer. Probably one of the most important things that you need if you're coming into a franchise. Meaning, if a franchise, for us, we recommend that the franchisees have a $5,000 buffer. So if a Little Boomers franchise costs $60,000, you need to have a $5,000 buffer. Don't just have 60 grand clean, have a $5,000 buffer, and consider that buffer a little bit of a breathing space to give your franchise time to build up. Because the reality is, and I'm going to share with you a real story very soon. The reality is, when you start up a franchise or you start up a new business, you are starting something from scratch, unless you're purchasing an existing franchise. That's different. But most of the times, if you're purchasing a new territory, you're purchasing something from scratch, and it takes time to build up the business in terms of revenue, brand awareness, and just getting things coming up. If you don't have a buffer, it's going to create a lot of stress and a lot of constraints for the business to perform early on. And I'll give you a great example. We had a franchisee came in, they're no longer in our network. They purchased a territory from us, and they were really relying on this business to produce a lot of income in a short period of time, for them to leave their corporate job, for them to spend more time with their family, for the husband to leave their job because both of them were under, financial strain in their relationship. And there was a lot of pressure early on for the franchise territory to perform, right? And because those expectations weren't met, the expectations were here for them. Because they weren't met early on, that caused a lot of frustration, a lot of stress, and a lot of tension in the business and with the franchisor as well. I thought my numbers were going to be higher. I was expecting 100 kids, but I'm only on 80. There was a lot of tension. So it's important that when you're coming into a franchise, if the investment is 100K, have a 10K buffer or have a 5K buffer. We recommend to our franchisees, if the investment's 60K, have a 5K buffer, because there might be expenses that pop up, like a school might charge for a newsletter drop, a shopping center might charge a small fee for you to come down. You might want to invest more in Facebook or Instagram ads, but having that buffer, believe me when I say this, gives you breathing room. So that's point number one. 3 classifications of fees: initial, ongoing, and also having a buffer. Now what I'm going to do, team, is I'm going to give you a real example of how we break down our franchise fee in those 3 categories, and I'm going to share my screen with you. 1 second, team. Okay, here it is. Okay, so looking at my screen, team, I've got a spreadsheet here called initial and ongoing. So I'm going to break down the investment so you can understand everything, and I'm going to be completely transparent with you. So over here, we've got the total investment. This is all initial. It's 60K plus GEC. That's at the moment of recording what the franchise investment is. That's the total investment. Now, what does that include? Now, every franchise might be a little bit different, right? But these are the nuts and bolts, and this is what's included for a Little Boomers basketball franchise. You've got the territory itself, so you get exclusive rights to deliver services in your territory, right? Make sure you check the franchise disclosure document to see what the rules are with the territory. We do exclusive ownership. You then get an equipment package that's valued at 5K. So our franchisees get an initial pack that includes basketballs, cones, hurdles, hoops, jerseys, training kits, everything they need. And a lot of franchisees will say to me, "Oh, Emil, what happens if I run out?" You can order it from us. We've actually got something that we call the HQ Pro Shop, and the franchisees can place orders and they use whatever they need as they go. So within that 60K, what else does that include? It includes a marketing package. So the marketing package that we provide to our franchisees is 2 things. The first one is physical marketing material. So all of our franchisees will get a set of flyers, banners, A-frames, tablecloths, everything they need to have polished physical marketing material. And it also includes an online advertisement campaign. So when a franchisee is starting up their new franchise and they've got a new venue, a head office does an online campaign across Facebook and Instagram. And we do a proper setup to really drive those enrollments, because we want the franchisee having at least 45 enrollments on their grand opening. And that's what we tend to achieve. And we offer something that we call the Grand Slam Bundle Pack. The first 30 kids that book in get a special bonus. You then got the training. So any investment will have a training fee. For us, we need to train the franchisee, not only how to deliver all the basketball programs, but also how to deliver the programs, also how to deliver the off-court. So how to look at admin, how to manage your enrollments, everything associated with that. So training, I like to break it down into two ends. You've got front end training on the court and the back end training. And we also help train their first two coaches to bring them in the system. We also include a vehicle wrap. So that 60K includes a vehicle wrap. All of our franchisees get a pretty cool vehicle wrap. And I like to call it a billboard on wheels because it's pretty much a free advertisement everywhere you drive. You rock up to a shopping center, rock up to a school, rock up to a daycare, picking up your kids. You've got free advertising. And then you've got support that we offer. And we recommend a 5K buffer for all of our franchisees. So how we bundle up our investment is we say 60K plus GST, which includes all of that. Now, what you need to understand is some franchise companies are a little bit different. They might say the total investment is 60K, plus you need to pay for an equipment package, which is 5K, a marketing package, which is 5K, and something else, which is 5K. So you need to make sure that when you're looking at the franchise, is it inclusive or are there extra add-ons? Now, we don't like to complicate things for our franchisees. Like when we like to do a one-time fee. Hey, this is 60K and this is what it includes. But franchise systems are different. They might have 60K investment, 5K here, 5K here. So you need to really understand what you're paying for. Now, I'm going to flip over my sheet here to where it says ongoing. And this is really important. I'm going to zoom out. Okay. So I'll get a lot of people on the phone call say to me, so Emil, if I pay 60K, is that it? I don't have to pay anything else? And that's not true. You are a business owner. And part of being a business owner is you now have your expenses to pay. And the major expenses that Little Boomers basketball franchise operators have is court hire fees, which is usually $80 per hour. So if you hire out the court for 3 hours, it's 80 times 3. You know what I love about this? It's pay-as-you-go basis. A lot of franchise models have rent and overhead where it's a fixed amount, say $500 every single week. The beauty about this is you pay for what you use. If you use 2 hours, you only pay for 2 hours of court hire. 3 hours, only 3 hours for court hire. So it's a very flexible, low overhead model. We have coacher wages, which usually are about $30 per hour. And the great thing is you only need 1 to 2 coaches to start off your launch. You don't need a whole team of coaches. So franchisees that are starting off in our network can keep their costs quite lean because they only need 1 to 2. And then as their program and as their kids build up, they can recruit new coaches. Royalty fee, which is already baked into everything. It's 10% on revenue. If you make $1,000, $100 comes back to head office. I mentioned this in a previous video, and we actually use that to reinvest as well back in the business. You then have your equipment costs. Like you might need, for example, new basketball hoops because you're opening up a new venue. And you can purchase those from our supplier at a really good rate. All the kids get a training kit. If you run out, you just order them from us and we give them to you at a really good rate. So those are your equipment costs. And then you have your miscellaneous costs. Kids get medals and certificates at the end of the term. So hopefully this side-by-side comparison was helpful. Again, you've got initial costs. These need to be paid pretty much at the start of the franchise. And then you've got ongoing costs, which are what you need to pay as a business owner for the lifetime of a franchise. So just make sure that you understand exactly what the initial costs are and exactly what the ongoing costs are. Okay. Now I'm going to switch back here, guys. 1 second. Can everyone see me? Awesome. There it is. So hopefully that screen share was screen share was helpful, team. I'm just going to get my screen up. Okay. All right. I'm back here. I just think I may have just gone off. Now, team, the other thing that I want to mention, and this is really important. Cool. The other thing that I want to mention as well, and this is really important, don't forget that there might be other fees in the franchise disclosure document that might be applicable throughout the franchise agreement. So you need to make sure that when you're coming into a franchise, you review the franchise disclosure document and see all the fees that are associated. Because, you know, we have, for example, an annual admin fee to $1,000 every year that's billable on January 12th, and we're very transparent with the franchisee. So in addition to your ongoing fees, you need to see what other fees might the franchisor activate throughout the agreement. And I recommend you put them all on a spreadsheet so you don't get caught off guard. You know all your fees and when they're due. The other thing I want to say, team, is some people will say to me, okay, Emil, so if I pay $60,000, because a franchise agreement doesn't go forever. Some are 5 years, some are 10 years. For Little Boomers, it's a 5-year agreement. If I pay $60,000 after 5 years, like what happens? Do I need to pay another $60,000? That's not true. All you need to pay is the documentation fee to renew your agreements for the next 5 years. Obviously, that's assuming that both parties, the franchisor and franchisee, want to renew for 5 years. Assuming they do, there's a $3,000 documentation fee to get your agreements up. So you don't have to pay that $60K again. The last thing, and this is my biggest takeaway, team. If you can take one takeaway from this video, please take away this. Don't just look at the initial costs when you're exploring a right franchise, whether it's Little Boomers Basketball or another franchise. Don't just look at the initial costs. Make sure you look at the ongoing costs, because the ongoing costs are ultimately what's going to determine your profitability as a franchisee, and also how quickly you make, or how not quickly you make, your return on investment. Sometimes franchise buyers obsess about the initial fee and the initial outlay, and they don't look at, when they get in the door, what are the ongoing costs associated with the business. They come in the agreement and they get eaten and slaughtered with all of these fees. That really slaughters their profit margin. So make sure you look at the ongoing fees associated with the franchise. Team, that brings us to the end of our Franchising Live series. Again, I appreciate it. If you're listening to this, thank you for making it this far. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next Thursday at the next live video. God bless.